This episode of Dorking Out is brought to you by MySpace. MySpace, we're better than Friendster.
And
MailApe, the service for having apes return all of your emails. Tired of wading through a stack of yammering morons in your inbox every morning? Wish there was another way to deal with the headaches of modern email? Now, there's MailApe. With our thousands of highly trained Gibbons apes, getting through your workday will be a breeze. Let our apes deal with Ted's email from accounting or Alice's incessant reminders about the 4th of July office mixer. A typical response to those worthless emails could read like this. Torg apologize, Sonia not attend offsite brainstorm session. Torg not believe good use of Sonia time, create ideas for company, but not get paid. Regards, Torg. MailApe 54721. MailApe, the service for having apes return your emails.
Houston, flight is go.
Myla, let's go.
From Assignment X, Amalgamated Storytelling, and thesoniashow.com, it's The Dorking Out Show with Christopher Allan Smith and Sonia Mansfield.
Welcome to episode 50 of Dorking Out, a podcast for people who like to dork out about stories and the stories and pop culture that we love. That means movies and TV, books and podcasts, and everywhere else you find stories that interest you. This is the Wonder Woman edition. With me today is my co-host, Emmy award-winning filmmaker, and he just won another Emmy on Saturday night, and nerd author Christopher Allan Smith.
Hey there.
Hello.
Now I'm insufferable.
You
Now.
Yeah, now you are.
And with me today is my co-host, non-Emmy award-winning professional writer and author of The Sonia Show, Sonia Mansfield, who wrote this intro.
It's true. I have not won an Emmy. I can't lie.
That's right. In this week's podcast, we review the long-awaited Wonder Woman with Margo D from Books versus Movies podcast, and my wife Laura, who has finally slept her way onto the show. You might remember her from her hatred of the Gilmore Girls, but more on that in our first segment. In our second segment, we're going to kind of revisit our talk of comedians and how far comedians can go, specifically with Kathy Griffin and the Bill Maher controversies from this week. Finally, we're going to end our show with what we're dorking out about this week, including my recent Emmy win. Did you hear? I won another Emmy!
I hadn't heard. Congratulations.
That's right. If only you followed us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere else, you might have heard something about it. Something meaning
maybe
10 or 20 posts, completely self-congratulatory, blowhardy posts. But if you're a fan of this podcast, you already know that. Anyway, on with the show.
Topic 1. It's time to talk about Wonder Woman. Unless you've been living on a magically hidden island, you know that Wonder Woman, directed by Patty Jenkins, opened this weekend. There's a lot riding on this movie. It's not just another comic book movie. The DC cinematic universe really needs a movie that competes on Marvel's level, which is a, critically acclaimed, long-running franchise. Wonder Woman needs to be more than a box office hit and prove that DC is capable of making movies that audiences and critics love. And it needs to prove that a female superhero movie will make money, and it's the first big superhero blockbuster directed by a woman. These are really high stakes, and just like women have to do in their careers all the time, Wonder Woman needs to be a better movie and make more money than its male counterparts just to be considered equal. Smith will probably hate that I said that, but it's true. And now...
No, I don't hate it. I just don't really care.
This movie, over the weekend, it made more than $100 million, and it's the biggest opening for a movie directed by a woman. But is it any good? we've brought in reinforcements for this review. A couple of real Wonder Women, Laura Smith, which is Smith's better half, and Margo D from the podcast Book versus Movie. And they're both here to talk about Wonder Woman with us. Thanks for joining us, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited. I'm just going to go ahead and let's start with Margo. What did you think of Wonder Woman? Well, let me ask this first. Are you like a comic book movie fan?
I'm a dabbler, not much of a fan. I can't watch all of them. I can't pretend to know everything about X-Men. And I just saw Logan the other day, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I don't know who anybody was, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
It's the same thing, by the way, with Lord of the Rings. I watch them and all those movies, and I think, oh, that's really interesting, and then I can't remember who it was. But I do like those movies. I didn't like the DC movie before Batman v Superman. I didn't enjoy that, but I am a longtime fan of Wonder Woman. That's definitely a part of my childhood. So I was very excited to show up for this movie today.
And did you like it or were you disappointed?
Oh my God. I loved it so much. I mean, I saw it with one of my best friends, Patty. We're at the Alamo Draft House in Brooklyn. Shout out.
I saw it at the Alamo Draft House here in San Francisco.
That is the best place to see movies. There's their free plug. It's fantastic. But it was just, I loved it. I loved it from beginning to end. There was no fat on there to trim for me. I thought it was wonderful. I love Chris Pine now. I'm going to dream about him tonight. The fight scenes were awesome. Gal Gadot's fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I did too. I'm going to go to Laura and then I'll blather on and on, I'm sure. Laura, what did you think? I know you're a big Wonder Woman fan.
Yeah, so I have a little altar of Wonder Woman stuff on the shelf above my kitchen sink, which I've had for years, because I was a Wonder Woman fan from back in the day. And
Read nothing into the fact that it's in the kitchen.
We're probably going to get divorced in like 2 hours, but it's all right. We had a good run. It was a good run. It was 17 years.
I just realized the optics of that are horrible.
So I'm a big Wonder Woman fan, and I really, really loved this movie. I had a feeling after I'd seen the previews that I was going to love it, but I was keeping my expectations low because I didn't want to be disappointed. And I was just really blown out of the water. I just loved it. There were a couple moments in there that I thought were really powerful, not just for a superhero movie or for a Wonder Woman movie, but for any movie, and especially a movie that is breaking a little bit of ground with showing women in just physically powerful roles that I thought were important and really moving. I thought, not to gush too far, but that's my honest opinion.
I was moved more than I was expecting to be. When she climbs out of the ditch, like climbs that ladder and like goes on the front line and takes on German force,
I held my breath.
Me too.
God,
I got really moved and was like
me too.
Almost crying. And
me too.
There was something about it, like the idea that she was so willing to fight for what's right, even though it was like dangerous and difficult. And it really touched me and it meant a lot to me. And
me too.
I was really surprised that it did, and that I was surprised at how much I really needed to see a female superhero movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was
with everything that's going on. It was just like the movie I needed right now.
Yeah, that
movie
part
we all
in
need
particular.
right now.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk of you.
That part in particular where there's this one shot where right before she runs out into no man's land, and they show her from below, probably from like the foxhole that she's just climbed out of. And it's the first time you see her without she's been wearing that gray cape that hides her Wonder Woman costume.
Yeah.
And it's the first time you see her in kind of all of her glory, and she's about to run out, and it was just really powerful. I thought it was really good. So yeah, I really, really, really thought they did a fantastic job with it.
I thought all the action scenes. I'm sorry. I thought all the action scenes were really incredible. I thought I loved watching her fight. I love the way like she twists around, her legs like jumping up in the air, and the sword, and all that. I thought it was just so powerful. And I think as women, it's the representation we kind of need to see. Somebody who's ethical and strong and doesn't take no for an answer and just goes for it. And it was, I felt the same way. I got choked up sometimes while she's fighting.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that people were kind of complaining about, like the Superman reboots and Batman v Superman and things like that, was there wasn't a lot of opportunity for them to be heroes. And I love how much of a hero she is in this movie. Like, she is saving people's lives, and and lives mean something, so when someone dies, it's a big deal. It's not just like, oh, well, like, right. Thousands of people are dying. Who cares?
When she tells off that general, how dare you just treat people that way? How dare you just treat human life like it doesn't matter? You should be ashamed of yourself. I loved that. I loved how strong she was.
And she was very unapologetic too. She was just unapologetic and matter of fact. She didn't ask for permission, and I thought that was really, really cool. That she was sexy and gorgeous, but it was her physical appearance wasn't an afterthought. I mean, it was obviously, I guess her appearance was secondary to her actions, and I thought I just thought it was really, really well done, the whole thing.
And I love the comedy touches. Like, I like how curious and smart she is, but like, she's never, she is like the fish out of water, but she's never the butt of the jokes.
Right. Her scenes with Chris Pine are just so amazing. They had great chemistry.
I thought so too.
I thought so too. I'm telling you, I'm going to be dreaming about him tonight. He just really won me over. I mean, he was fine as Captain Kirk, but this is it for me.
Yeah, I thought he did really well.
I love that he like acknowledges really early on like who she is and how awesome she is, and he just kind of stands back and is like, yeah, she's awesome. Like,
right.
I'm going to let her do her thing. And at one point he does say, like, I can't let you do that. And she's like, well, that's not for you to decide, buddy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I thought it
Smith,
was great.
we didn't even ask you. What do you think, Smith?
No, that's fine. I'm glad that Laura can come on. Laura has been one of our secret weapons with this podcast. We are still getting comments from her takedown of the Gilmore Girls reboot. So anytime that we can have her on here to talk about something, it's...
Those bitches. Can I swear on this thing?
No, you can't!
I'm sorry.
I love how much Laura hates the Gilmore Girls.
Laura, I hate them too.
I hate them so much. And I love Wonder Woman for all of the reasons that I'm repulsed by the Gilmore Girls.
Wow.
They are like polar opposites
people
on the feminism scale.
Absolutely.
Me. I want to throw them off a cliff.
People.
I want Wonder Woman to throw them off a cliff after she's strangled them with her lasso of truth.
Wow. All right. Back to Wonder Woman. I really liked this movie, and there's been a lot of kind of metaphors and, this is, Wonder Woman needs to come in and save Warner Brothers because they've been trying to create this DC cinematic universe and they're failing, and Wonder Woman needs to come in and save comic books and whatever. And usually cliches like that get built up really kind of irritate me. But I really do. I was kind of shocked at not shocked at how good this movie was, but shocked at how we've drifted away from a lot of the classically enjoyable things about summer movies, and how this one felt like an early 80s Steven Spielberg, Richard Donner Superman kind of thing. I know that Patty Jenkins has talked about using Richard Donner's Superman as a touchstone, and it really shows. There's a lot of things that have kind of fallen out of favor when it comes to comic book movies or adventure movies, in this day and age. And I think, Sonia, you kind of touched on it, is a lot of times we get like comic book heroes fighting villains and stuff, but we don't get a lot of kind of heroics a lot of the time. And the important thing of her being a hero and being revealed classically as a hero, where she's kind of naive, but she's really smart. So she's kind of fumbling her way for the first part of the movie, and then once she understands everything, it kind of comes into her own and kind of unleashes, her Wonder Woman-ness on the battlefield in World War One. It is just spectacular, and I didn't kind of really realize one of the things that was great about classic adventure movies is they would always have great screen heroes have great themes. So when Superman's theme kicks in and he starts doing superheroics, or the James Bond themes when his theme kicks in, that usually is almost kind of like a Pavlovian, hey, let's this is just the point to cheer audience kind of thing. But when it's done right and somebody is starting to be a hero and their music kicks in and fills the theater and it's just pulse pounding, and when all of the elements that the screen, the story, the character, the cinematography, the action, the music, when it all lands just right, that's one of the that's why I love movies, and that's why I love specifically these kind of summer adventure type movies. And holy smokes, that it happened a lot. And one of the things that it kind of shocked me is that there's been kind of discussion about Marvel not having good music and Marvel having, they're doing an awful lot of things right, but I think they are starting to get kind of muddled and wrapped around their own axle when it comes to the stories that they're telling. Because when all Wonder Woman is doing in this first big moment that we're talking about, which I think is the best sequence of the movie, she is, there's a village in trouble. There's a bunch of bad guys between her and the village, and she stands up and starts walking towards the village, and that's it. That's as complex as the story moment gets, but it is just really meaningful. There's a lot of Superman in this. There's a lot of classic cinematic talent and cinematic, moments being touched on here, in a way that a lot of the, Spielberg and Lucas and a lot of the great action directors of the 70s and 80s were kind of echoing things that they had seen in, movie serials. And now she's kind of echoing things that they did with Wonder Woman. And, when talented directors set their mind to create moments like this and they're able to pull them off, there's nothing more satisfying in movie making. And it was, I was really moved. I was really, this is kind of the anti-Dark Knight of movies, I would say, even though I love the Dark Knight like crazy, but having a hero that is being heroic and isn't undercut by some kind of bitterness or some kind of weird twisted villain or some kind of nihilistic ending or something is just really just so much fun and so thrilling. And it also kind of highlights in a weird way how disappointing the previous entries in the DC, Batman versus Superman and Suicide Squad. It's just, they're so dark and dank and down, and this is just so colorful and light and fun
and violent, and the death means nothing.
Right.
Yeah, it is. I really like this movie a lot. It scratched.
I like how they. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's okay.
I just wanted to mention, like, you were talking about Richard Donner's version of Superman, and like I liked that Superman too. He was a goody-goody. You know, he really did the right things because they were the right things to do. They weren't about making him look like a great person. They just were the right things for him to do. And that's why he did them. And wouldn't think of doing it any other way. And that's this Wonder Woman versus the DC films we've had the last couple of years. Superman is like this downer, it's bummed out Superman moping around the world. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't need that. I don't need that. I want a superhero. I want someone who's better than me, who has strong morals and strong character and is a stronger physical person than I am that could do it. It feels cathartic to me to watch that person do it. It's wonderful. It's engaging and it's empowering. And I don't feel that when I'm watching Batman and Superman having a, moaning little pissing contest with each other. It drove me crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't think it's too much to say that if this movie had continued down that path, DC would have to stop. They would have to stop making these superhero movies and completely retool. They can't take 3 train wrecks in a row.
Right.
And if it is not too much to say that if because it's funny because there's been kind of a lot written on the story aspect of this movie, and I think Patty Jenkins came in and said that they had kind of, when she came in, they threw out a lot of Zack Snyder's ideas, and he had something sketched out that was going down the same path with this movie, and to see her fix this and see what was wrong. And there's been a lot of talk in the last year since Suicide Squad that DC really needs to fix stuff, and is Wonder Woman going to be able to do it? Are they going to be able to course correct? And it is very heartening to see that, they still know how
that a woman saved the world again.
That's the thing. Yeah, that a woman saved the world
again. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah,
it's almost like Hillary Clinton should have been president.
You think? But emails, huh?
Yeah.
I think Patty Jenkins should have been president, but we can solve that problem several different ways.
You mentioned the Richard Donner, Steven Spielberg 80s movies, which reminds me how much when I saw Captain America, the first Avenger, that movie to me felt like it was filmed in the 80s, even though it's set in the 40s, and I super love that about it. And Captain America reminds me a lot of Wonder Woman and Superman in that they're kind of squares. They do always like kind of do the right thing, and that it could be boring, but it's not. And I think it has so much to do with, their stories in the script, but also the casting. Like they did such a good job casting, Captain America, and they did such a good job when they cast Christopher Reeve as Superman. I don't really dig the new guy. No. I can't even remember his name.
Henry Cavill?
Him.
That's right.
Mopey guy?
Yeah, but Gal
Gadot,
Wonder Woman. Yes, thank you. It's like it was going to come out eventually. She's so great.
She is
as
great.
Wonder Woman.
Yes, she is. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a thing that I am kind of getting frustrated. It's almost 10 years ago that The Dark Knight came out and was such a box office behemoth that it seems like Hollywood learned all the wrong lessons. That's the thing, is if you have something that's successful in Hollywood, that's just going to get you more of it. And while that was great for that specific movie, the idea that superhero movies need to be dark and sad and brutal and gritty and quote unquote realistic is completely taken over a lot of Hollywood for the last 10 years. And, that's a thing that I keep, when I hear people talk about, superhero movies can't be the way that they were, we've been living in the age of quote unquote dark and gritty pop culture for, 15 to 20 to 25 years now in various aspects. So when Captain America or Wonder Woman or, Richard Donner Superman do show up, they're almost the quirky, weird character because they're set against a background where everything else is dark and sad and jaded and hard, and so I am almost hoping that Hollywood kind of swings back in this direction where having some optimism, having some Jimmy Stewart style hope.
I think we need it right now.
Need that.
Oh, we absolutely need it.
We
Please, we're dying for it.
And exactly, we're dying for it, and it will not seem like, oh, this is kind of boring. It will seem almost novel, almost
like a relief,
almost like a counterculture movie.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you're right. I tried watching on Netflix the other day. The House of Cards had their newest season.
Yes,
I lasted literally 5 minutes and I had to turn it off.
We had the same
experience.
Out loud to
myself. I said out loud to myself, to my cats in my apartment, like, I can't do this right now.
No, yeah.
I can't.
It's too much. Yeah, we had the same
experience.
Too real,
too depressing. Mm-hmm. I can't do it.
Yeah. I need some light and levity in my pop culture entertainment these days.
I need, some hope. I need real
some
earned hope is
good.
essential.
Yeah, I need some good in my life.
You know, and
When
I watched
watching.
Blades of Glory instead.
Good choice.
That's an excellent choice.
Thank you. I love that movie.
Cool. So Sonia, did you have any other thoughts? Or because I know that you and I have talked about this for as long as the podcast has been on the air, looking forward to it, and it's, you know, I've been saying I've been very hopeful but very worried just because of the way that Warner Brothers seems to be treating their whole comic book endeavors. Now that we've seen the movie, now that it's been really highly rated, do you have any other thoughts, given all your hopes and dreams over the last couple of years or last year? Now that you've seen the movie, what are your impressions?
I super love the movie, and I actually can't wait to go back and see it again with my husband. And I think what's probably going to happen now is we'll start hearing about more reshoots for Justice League, because they'll realize like they did something right here, and they'll want to make Justice League more Wonder Woman-y. Is my prediction.
That would
I would
fantastic.
be fine with that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there are going to be some reshoots with Joss Whedon and all that stuff after the tragedy that I don't think we need to go into here about Zack Snyder from a couple months ago, which is sad, and our thoughts and prayers go out to them. But yeah, I think you might be right. I think I'm sure, 6 months ago, Warner Brothers saw this, hopefully saw the light, and then went to Zack Snyder and went to Joss Whedon and said, please, we need to keep steering the ship in this direction. Go rewrite some scenes, guys. Go reshoot some of this movie, because this is the path going forward.
I'm so excited about the reception for this movie, and I've been loving seeing all the pictures of people taking their girls to see the movie, and they're wearing their Wonder Woman gear, and she's a really good role model. I'm stoked that this is, no offense to, Black Widow and stuff like that, but, Black Widow isn't very heroic, and Wonder Woman is. So I'm really glad that, like, women and girls finally have somebody for themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
Actually,
I agree.
You know what? That's a perfect. Thanks for mentioning that. That is the perfect distillation. Is Black Widow in the Marvel universe is a much more current, much more typical female or even male superhero of this era. Somebody that's duplicitous, lies, tricks everyone around her, has secret ways to get around everybody and kind of undercut everyone. That all makes sense for the character. That all makes sense for what she does. But just the stark contrast of her versus Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman is just the chasm between those two characters, in a weird way, kind of for me, shows how off track we've been with a lot of these movies. Even though I've enjoyed pretty much everything Marvel's done, it's kind of like now that we can see what a classically fun hero could be in one of these movies, I really hope they do more of it. But I had a spoilery question when you guys are ready. All right. Actually, everybody, this is a warning that we are going to spoil a little bit now. The main bad guy, played by David Thewlis, from Harry Potter and Fargo fame. What did you guys think of the end? What did you guys think of his ultimate revelation as the bad guy in the movie?
What, that she was the weapon?
No, that of him being the bad guy, him being Ares in the movie.
Well, I was surprised because I thought Ares was going to be the woman that was making the chemist.
Right.
I expected it to be her all along, so I was thrown off by it, and I was kind of underwhelmed, honestly. But
I actually would have liked it if they'd made the scientist.
That's a better idea.
That's what I
Because
expected.
actually-
I even leaned over
Yeah,
to Chris
totally.
and told him that's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
I kind of suspected that David Thewlis was the bad guy, but now that you mention your idea, I like that one better.
Well,
I like it way better.
I
Yes.
do too. I definitely do, because the reason I'm asking this question is I loved everything in this movie. This would have been like a 9.5. This would have been up at that level for me, except for I thought him being the villain was very underwhelming, and it's like structurally and from a storytelling standpoint, I understand why that character being the villain would be meaningful, but I think it's just something about him as an actor. He's always been kind of the funny, bumbling British dude. And he just does not seem like a big, bad, super menacing. Yeah, exactly. He does not seem like a god of war. He seems like an accountant of war or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Have you seen him in Fargo?
I have. Yes, I have. We're a little bit behind.
He's not really a bumbling British guy.
No,
he's
got those awful teeth.
That's true.
He's picking
From
his
all that
teeth. That really
bulimia.
freaks me out. Yuck.
No, that is true. And I think that's the thing, is he is this kind of snake in the grass kind of guy. He can play a villain, but the big, physically imposing, brutish villain, the guy that can go toe-to-toe with Wonder Woman, it's not that guy. And there's a scene where he kind of puffs up after he reveals himself, and he kind of makes this metal helmet on his head, and it's just screamingly apparent that they took his head and put it on some CG body. And it's just, for me, it's just like, I can't really, that kind of took the air out of it for me at the end. At the ends of these movies, you have to have the big fist fight and all that, which I get, but I just wish they had a different actor that could do that transformation a little bit better. I just almost not laughed at it, but I was, and this is not an instance where I want to blame Mr. Thewlis, because he's just an actor doing his job. Just like I really do like Henry Cavill, but the writing for his character, I think his version of Superman is just very underwhelming and misfired. And I was just curious what you guys thought, because for me that was the only thing putting a little bit of a thumb in the eye of this movie. But yeah, so
I did think that, like a lot of movies, it does kind of at the end, in that third act, the big final battle is kind of like a big jumble of CGI, and it goes on like just a little too long for me, but that's like a minor complaint that does not ruin the movie for me. It's just at that point I'm like, I really have to go to the bathroom. Like, this movie should have ended like 10 minutes ago.
Right. Exactly.
I didn't mind. I mean, it's a quibble. I mean, I felt a little bit of the same way, but I didn't care. I just went with it.
Yeah.
I
love watching the movie so much that, it's not like I'm like, oh, I wish the movie was over. It was like,
no, you had
just
to pee.
that part felt a little long to me. Yeah,
I had a little sneaking suspicion after it was revealed that the chemist was not Ares, that as I was thinking about it afterwards, I wondered if she originally was going to be Ares, but then they changed it maybe while they were making the movie or after they made the movie. So they would have a male counterpart to be kind of a counterweight to all the femininity in the movie. But I don't know. I could be totally wrong, but I just wondered about that from a structural standpoint of how they made the movie. Because it just seemed to me while we were watching the movie that it would have made sense. Like the way they showed the relationship between I can't remember his name now, but the German general and her. Right. They seemed to be leading it that way. And I really believe, I kept on thinking, I knew that after she killed him, that I just expected her to come in and say, I'm the god of war. I don't know. I just wondered if they needed a male, kind of a male lead.
You know what? Well, that's
I don't know.
Because usually in movies like this, a lot of time, especially in these comic book movies, the villain is the mirror of the hero.
Mm-hmm.
So it would kind of make sense, and that might, in a weird way, explain. You know, we don't really know the revision backstory of this movie, but that might actually explain why David Thewlis became the villain, because it's like, all right,
like he came out of nowhere.
Exactly. It's okay. We're not going to have if we're not going to have the chemist be the bad guy, and this German general is going to be a misdirect as a hero. What are the other big characters we have in the movie that could possibly be the big bad guy? Well, we've already cast David Thewlis as the British
Right.
MP.
He's a sneaky British.
I guess we got him. You know, but I don't know. That's an interesting thought. Let me ask you guys this, because there has been a lot of discussion of her being the first major female superhero of kind of in this modern era of comic book movies, say kind of the post Iron Man world. From my point of view, as a male moviegoer who's been into these kinds of movies for as long as I've been into movies, this seemed not that different from any other superhero movie. Like, I know there's a lot of discussion about, she shows female empowerment, she does all this stuff, and I do get that, but from almost like a structural point of view, she seems like just a classic screen hero that does all the things a classic screen hero. What are the things that you guys felt were different here, given that she was Wonder Woman?
There wasn't anything different. That's why it was so good.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Also, but that first battle scene when the Germans showed up at the it's not Paradise Island. How do you pronounce the name of the island that they're from?
Mysthesia.
No, it's Thalicia or something.
I can't pronounce it.
Mysteria.
No, it's not Mysteria.
I'm not even gonna try.
That's right.
Yeah, but that's a great battle scene, but it's all women fighting against these Germans, and we don't see that as women. We don't see a pack of women being badasses. You know, you get one or two, like a Kill Bill movie or something like that. They'll throw us a bone once in a while, but like to have like a pack of women busting ass.
And how weird was it that one of them was Robin Wright?
I loved Robin Wright.
Yeah,
Didn't that seem
awesome.
so like she's so badass in this movie?
I
was
her.
really surprised.
Really?
Like it seemed to me like Robin Wright. I haven't seen her in this kind of movie before.
No, but I think part of it, speaking of House of Cards, having seen her in House of Cards, I believe that she could kick any kind of ass.
Robin Wright could intellectually kick some ass, but I never thought she could actually kick some ass.
Yeah.
Oh, I think she can. Yeah, and Connie Nielsen, is that who it is?
Yeah, she was awesome too.
She was amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
really
there's some really amazing women in here, and they're all different, and they all are strong, and they have their own points of view, and we like seeing that. You know, we can handle that. Yeah.
You're right. Like story-wise, it isn't super different. Like it's, let's get the ragtag group of people together to complete a mission.
Right.
Like that's like a lot of movies, but because it's told with a female lead, a really strong female superhero, it feels completely different.
And it wasn't told sorry, Sonia, I didn't mean to. Go ahead.
That's okay. I was say it means something different.
Yeah, and also it wasn't told with a wink, and she's a girl. It wasn't
right.
And she did all this, and she's a girl.
Right.
It wasn't told with that kind of side eye. It was told she, as a straightforward, this is a powerful woman with a story to tell who has amazing abilities, and she's gonna, she's here to do some amazing stuff. And, one of the reasons I didn't want my expectations to get high on this one is because I kind of expected it to be that way. I expected there to be, the kind of wink, and she's a girl doing all of this. Well, oh my.
Right.
Clutch my pearls or something. And there wasn't. It was just, it was just a straightforward, it was a straightforward hero movie, and the hero happened to be a woman. So, again, the woman saves the world, and we all love it.
Right. So, Sonia, what would you give
Yes.
this movie out of 10? To get back to the question that you always hate to answer.
I hate that Smith asked me to rank the movies.
But
I'll
do.
say, I think it's an 8, an 8.5.
Okay. Laura,
I think it's really good.
What would you say?
I would give it a 9.13.
Oh, 0.13 now. That's what we're doing? All right.
I'm marking it down the 0.87 because I thought the chemist should have been the Aries.
Right.
I thought she should have been Aries.
Cool. And Margo.
I give it a solid 9.
All right. I give because this is Dorking Out, and because apparently Sonia and I are destined to be in lockstep no matter what the movie all the time. I literally was going to give it an 8 or an 8.5. So
there you go.
The streak remains alive.
Yes.
Except for
Margo,
Alien Covenant. They're all of our reviews are identical.
You gave it a really good review, and I did not. Margo, where can people find you on the internet?
So on the interwebs, you can find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick, actually. Just spell out Brooklyn Fit Chick on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and that's where you can find me with all the podcasts that I'm on. But the main one that I'm on is Book versus Movie, and it's just you spell out Book versus Movie on Facebook and Twitter. And if you're looking for us on iTunes and whatever, my co-host is also named Margo. We talk about films that are adapted from books. You look us up on iTunes and Stitcher and all that stuff at bookvs.movie podcast. You abbreviate verses because we didn't know what we were doing when we first started the podcast. We just did it on a lark. So if you're looking for the show, bookvs.movie podcast. If you're looking for us on social media, spell out Book versus Movie.
And it's a really good podcast. I listen all the time.
Thank you so much.
I am a big fan. And I'm so glad that you came on.
Well, I'm so glad you invited me. I'm a big fan of you guys. I listen to you every single week.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we're going to punish that loyalty by having you on again.
Anytime. Anytime.
Great. Cool.
Laura, do you need to tell anyone where they can find you on the interwebs?
Well, I'm Mrs. Chris Smith, so they can find me on my husband's Facebook.
My God.
No, not even close. No, I'm on Facebook, but
Are you on Twitter now that I think about it?
I'm not on Twitter because Twitter confuses me. All the hashtags are too much for my lady brain.
Oh my God! Stop! Stop talking.
I'm just on your podcast via marriage, so I really have no official footprint in this world.
That's right.
But I appreciate you hearing my point of view.
That's right. Well, we would like to have you on again soon to talk about something that you hate.
All right. I would love to talk about things I hate. I have a lot of things to say about that.
We'll start a new segment called Things Laura Hates.
We will.
Can I join in?
Yes. Oh,
Please.
definitely.
Yes.
I have a lot of things I hate. So
Me too, honey. Me too. Especially Gilmore Girls. So
all right, let's get at it then.
Together.
Let's get at it.
All right. This is taking for such an uplifting and hopeful segment, this is taking a dark turn at the end here, but all right.
Hey, want more Dorking Out?
Yep,
You can visit our website at dorkingoutshow.com.
you can.
And you can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter.
On Twitter.
Do you listen to us on iTunes?
Yep.
It's cool.
It's cool.
We won't tell anyone.
Nope.
Please take a few minutes out of your busy day of pretending to work while you watch cat videos to give us a review on iTunes.
Cat videos.
For some reason, iTunes really cares about reviews, and it helps us attract more listeners. And you want us to have more listeners and be popular and cool, don't you?
Yep.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
And now, on with the show.
Yeah. So, a couple weeks ago, Sonia and I had a pretty, I thought, interesting discussion about comedy and comedians and when comedians go too far and kind of this culture of professional outrage that seems to have cropped up on the left and the right in the more irritated corners of the internet. And kind of what we thought about that. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, Sonia, we ended up leaning to the side of, well, comedians, that's their job to outrage. That's their job to go too far. Let's kind of cut them some slack, given that this is the waters in which they swim, and that if you're a comedian spouting things off on the top of your head on stage, eventually you're going to say something that goes too far, does a little bit too much. However, that was before D-list comedian celebrity Kathy Griffin did a photo shoot this last week, or I think week and a half now, where she held up the seemingly decapitated head of Donald Trump. And it was also before Bill Maher went on his show Friday to refer to himself as a house N-word, but he did not say N-word. So
He did not.
We thought it would be an interesting time for Sonia and I to kind of revisit this subject, revisit our thoughts on this, because I like to think of myself as somebody who casts a pretty wide net in terms of how offensive people can be, but I found myself pretty irritated and outraged and trying to think up defenses for Kathy Griffin, and I couldn't really think of a lot. So I was wondering, wow, is this finally an instance where I felt the outrage towards her was legitimate? But since Sonia and I decided to put this on the scoreboard, we've had some discussions and kind of gone back and forth. And first off, Sonia, what did you think when you saw Kathy Griffin's holding up the supposedly severed head of Donald Trump?
I think it takes a lot to offend me. Mm-hmm. I actually wasn't offended because I don't really like Donald Trump and don't care. I did think the picture was super gross. It is super gross. It's not my favorite photo. That's for sure. But I wasn't personally offended, but I understand why other people would be offended. And what we were talking about when we chatted about this the other day, and I was more offended by the outrage coming from the right. Mm-hmm. That seemed, like this is unacceptable. She needs to be fired and all this stuff, when they were kind of fine with it when it was coming towards Obama from people like, Limbaugh or in our conversation, I said specifically Ted Nugent, who now is actually been invited and had dinner at the White House and things like that after threatening to, kill Obama and Hillary and Harry Reid and all of these things. So the kind of mock outrage coming from them was more offensive to me than her photo.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I hear what you're saying. There is definitely no shortage of hypocrisy when it comes to these subjects and comes to this. I was really... I do remember a lot of the really offensive stuff going towards Obama, like a lot of the Tea Party, and usually would be kind of whenever they would have like a gathering of Tea Party, the one really far out Tea Party guy would always show up with a picture of Obama with a little Hitler mustache or Obama in some witch doctor getup or something. And I do remember there being quite a bit of outrage on the left about that, and I also felt that outrage. I was kind of struck as somebody who is not a big fan of Trump. We don't need to get into the depth of that here, but I think we've both called him a fascist on this show. I was kind of surprised
I laugh because it's true.
That's right. At how outraged and how sickened I was. For me, this really did seem way too far. And, when that congresswoman was shot in Arizona, and then Sarah Palin had the map of congressional districts that needed to get turned over to the Republicans in that upcoming election, and she had the little crosshairs on each of the districts. I remember there being a lot of outrage about that. Anytime there's real discussions of violence towards political figures, there is the famous Kennedy needs to be tried and shot for treason ad that was run in the Dallas Morning News, I believe it was, the day he got shot in Dallas.
Oh, geez.
So there has been this kind of long history of pretty violently tinged rhetoric in America that unfortunately kind of sometimes brushes up when, something like somebody like Hinckley shoots Reagan or Oswald shoots Kennedy. And yes, Oswald did shoot Kennedy. Or this, for me, that's kind of where it rubbed up in that it's a truly grotesque shot. It's like a very visceral, brutal, and not like kind of a cartoon or a dummy.
Right.
It looks like a really decapitated head of Donald Trump, and she's got this weird look. But then I started thinking, I want to throw a couple ideas by you. Especially since there is the reaction, and since we've been talking about this, I have kind of read up a little bit on some of the stuff that Ted Nugent said about Obama and Hillary. And I'm wondering, I've never seen an image of, if I had seen an image of Ted Nugent holding a rope, which went up over a tree limb, and on the other end was a photorealistic.
Okay. I think I see where you're going.
I think people would have flipped out.
So it's because he just said it and he didn't it wasn't visual.
I think it might have been, because then I was thinking, all right, well, if Kathy Griffin had gone on some, spur of the moment rant on stage with a mic in her hand with no visuals, would we be about, some bit about ISIS style decapitating Donald Trump? I don't think I would have batted an eye. Yeah. I don't think it would have been some kind of controversy, and Republicans would have been outraged, but I don't think it would have, because I've heard several people on the left, deplore this. She's been fired from her CNN job, which seems to be the death penalty in this current outrage culture that I am still against. I am still very suspicious of, which is when in doubt, fire someone. But then I was thinking...
Now, to be fair, she's pretty obnoxious on that CNN show, so, I'm kind of fine with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish she was fired for just, because she was obnoxious. But I will say, here's why, like I said, the photo's really gross, and I don't like Trump,
right.
But I do really love when Michelle Obama talked about when they go low, we go high.
Right.
And this isn't high. This is going low.
Right.
And I was talking to my friend Kate about this before we went into Wonder Woman. And she was saying how 10 years ago, this photo would have been an even bigger deal. But it's so representative of where the discourse has gone that we're really only going to be outraged for a couple days, and then we'll be like, meh.
Yeah.
In theory, she could probably get her show. She'll be back hosting New Year's Eve. Everyone will have forgotten.
Just out of curiosity, did you see her press conference?
I didn't. I read the story about it, and I have to say, I know she apologized, and then she's done a couple of other things where she's crying and apologizing and saying she's getting death threats and stuff like that, which is awful. People shouldn't be threatening her life.
They should.
I kind of
well, hold on. I gotta say, coming from the woman holding the decapitated head, that seems pretty rich.
This is an artistic photo shoot thing, though. It's not a legit threat,
True.
A weirdo
yes, that's true.
with no icon on Twitter
that's right.
prints your address and threatens to kill you. That's a little bit more of a legit threat. But,
yes, obviously, yes.
I kind of wish that she really hadn't apologized. This is going to sound weird. I kind of wish she hadn't apologized. I kind of wish she had doubled down on, no, I mean it.
Yeah.
I stand behind this. This, like you said, this isn't something where she just got on the stage and randomly spouted off something. This was a planned photo shoot with hair and makeup and ideas, and they had to create a severed head, and a lot of thought went into this. She was making a statement, and then when people were I don't like your statement, she kind of backed down, and I'm you shouldn't have. You should just be no, I don't have to explain my art to you.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I think it's funny because I've gone through a.
But I actually, and I want to say, but I fully support her right to do this picture. And, you can say whatever you want to say, but you have to be prepared to accept the consequences. And like when people say like, somehow like this violates her First Amendment rights if she loses her job or whatever. No, like the government's not suppressing her right to say anything. She can say whatever she wants. And like CNN can say, I don't like with what you said.
Right.
And fire you.
Yeah.
Like that's how it works.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. I am all for free speech. And then it's funny because you mentioned there, this is her art and, she's projecting this message or whatever. Part of the ways I tried to go through this is to think if different people had done it and trying to figure out, well, what exactly is her statement here? Because back in the 80s, there were a lot of people on the left when they were doing protests against Reagan and all that kind of stuff. They would kind of burn the flag as a way to show, and it became a famous court case, and, that's why, it was labeled free speech when, people are making a political expression when they're burning the flag, which I think should be allowed, but I've said it before, it's a very reprehensible and odious form of communication, which I think should be allowed, because then that lets me know who I don't need to pay attention to. And for me, I would put this thing in the same categories. Like, yes, she has the right to do it. Yes, she's making some statement about the current administration. But it tells me I don't need to pay any more attention to her. This is a completely clumsy, thoughtless, thuggish expression of an idea that I don't find interesting or revealing or enlightening. So not that I paid that much attention. But here's the thing. And I want to see what you thought of this is, so first I thought, okay, Kathy Griffin did this. But what if Dave Chappelle had done this? Would I feel as outraged, given his track record as a comedian, given the thought he puts into different things? And then I figured, no, I would be stopped short, and I would have to sit and think about it if someone like a Dave Chappelle did something like this. Then I thought, well, okay,
so,
is it because
what's the difference then?
Here's the thing, and I thought, well, Dave Chappelle, okay, I would probably still not like it, but I wouldn't as quickly dismiss it, and I would find it pretty offensive, even though Trump is my least favorite president of all time, etc., etc. Then I thought, all right, well, what if it was, is it because she's a woman? Probably not, but and then I started rolling through the Rolodex of, okay, let's imagine Amy Schumer doing this. Still pretty clumsy, still pretty bad. I think Amy Schumer's a better comedian. And I thought, all right, what if Tina Fey did this? She's got this background in political humor. She's got this background. If Tina Fey had done something like this, I think I would have a harder time dismissing it, kind of like with Dave Chappelle. Then that got me to thinking, what is the real motivation behind it? Because there's several different types of celebrities, and I think you said this, how you used to like Kathy Griffin back when she was kind of a stand-up comedian, but then she kind of morphed into the D-list celebrity doing anything for a show kind of phase of her career. Right. And that turned me around to what is the real thought being projected by this. And this could be, I think this probably is, this is just my hunch. This is the thing that a kind of a D-list celebrity does. They kind of try to think of something crazy and outrageous that'll grab a lot of headlines, and they do something nuts every 6 months to keep their face out there. And I think she just kind of miscalculated or overcorrected or whatever. And I think that's it. So I kind of circle back to, as a performer or as somebody that thinks about show business, I'm kind of even more offended, not because she did this political thing, but I think I doubt her motives, given the kind of comedy that she's done, given the sophistication of the humor that she's done, given her kind of political stances, or the political sophistication of her comedy. It seems more likely to me that she did this for shock value and not to express any kind of political opinion. that might have been more interesting coming from Tina Fey or Dave Chappelle or whatever.
She's a very, very proud, she is really big in the gay community, and, she's always advocating for that community.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of her hatred of Donald Trump is, based in that. So I think, she does have like a political idea.
Yeah.
I think with it, I think that, but by issuing an apology and saying almost like, I didn't mean to upset people. It's like, well, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, exactly.
you took a photo of someone's severed head. Like, even if it hadn't been Donald Trump, like even if it had been, Paul Ryan or like
anybody.
Someone not the president, like it could have been anybody. The picture is really gross. And
I agree. And I think,
but like I said, I'm truly more offended by the mock outrage. But I wish she had stood behind. There was intent here. There was, they put thought into this. There was a reason they were doing this photo shoot, and instead of standing her ground, she backed down.
Well, that is the thing, and that's why I asked you if you'd seen her press conference, because I started to watch some of it, and I heard that she had given several statements and done several things. First, I'm sorry. I heard that she was kind of begging and pleading and crying. Then I saw her do a press conference where she complained that the Trump family was trying to destroy her career, and how they were attacking her. Which, I'm sorry, you could be, Pope Francis, and if you had held up a cut off head of Pope Francis, you're going to get some heat from his family. There's just no way around it. This kind of, oh, you're being so mean to me after you did this pretty offensive, pretty strident, in a bad way.
Here's the other thing. I don't think people who work in the entertainment industry give an F what the Trumps think. So I'm not quite sure that it really would hurt her career in that way.
Yeah.
Oh, no studio will cast her in a movie now because, Trump Jr. is mad at her. I don't think that matters.
Yeah. I just thought it was, I think that's the thing that I boiled down to is, she has this very clumsy, very obvious, kind of in writers' rooms, or there's always the, hey, we're going to have, we need a plot for our sitcom. What's something we can do? And there's always the very obvious, hey, let's have a guy have two dates. And he needs to go to the same dance with two dates. There's always the guy that says the most obvious, in-your-face, blunt, brutish version of a story or version of an idea. And that's never very interesting, never very revealing. And this just smacks of that. But yeah, I was just, I think I said jokingly when we were talking about this, to quote Jerry Seinfeld from Seinfeld, I'm not offended as a Jewish man, I'm offended as a comedian. I thought this was just a ridiculous, I don't know. I thought this was kind of a ridiculous exercise that seemed to me to be mainly for cynical, headliney reasons. And it could just be that Kathy Griffin, I don't trust her instincts as a real political commentator or comedian. If Amy Poehler had done this, I'd be trying to figure it out and unpack, peel away the layers of the onion and to see if there was something more revelatory there. Here, I'm pretty sure it was just a crass attention grab, which I'm never very interested in, and which is why we almost never talk about reality shows on this podcast.
Yeah,
because they're all of that. But anyway,
crass attention grab is my new band name. By the way, right. You can pick up my album.
That's
at all the Walmarts.
That's right. But let's move on to Bill Maher in a discussion with, I think it was Senator Ben Sasse on Friday. They were talking about work and all this kind of stuff and how kids these days need to work and how it's good for them to get outside. And Bill Maher said, well, screw that. I'm a house N-word. referring to himself as he did, making a kind of a jokey showbiz joke about how he likes to be pampered and stay inside and be on his show rather than do any real work, which is kind of a long-running joke for him and the way he sees his career. What about this? He used the N-word, which is pretty much the third rail, especially in left-leaning Hollywood, but he used it as himself, and it's not like he did it in a John Imus, foisting it on members of the African-American community that don't have a huge nationally syndicated show to defend themselves. He did it on his HBO show against himself. What are your thoughts there in terms of the overall comedic landscape?
I think it wasn't very funny. I also think he's a rich white guy, and there's like one word you're not allowed to use, just one.
Right.
And it's a pretty sweet deal. You just, being rich and white, don't say this one word.
Yeah.
Like he didn't. I don't know why he thought that joke was funny or appropriate. It was not appropriate at all. And it made things really awkward for that senator who didn't say anything and like laughed at his joke, and the audience laughed, and it's not appropriate.
Well, that's the thing is whenever it comes to scolding the appropriateness of a comedian, I'm always leery, but, and maybe this is the rule that I'm thinking of, is because I one of my favorite comedians, Bill Burr, has said that word in several of his acts, and I haven't reacted to it like this. I think I'm almost wondering if there's a kind of, and this is something that's talked about with comedians, is the more politically or emotionally charged the subject is, and the further out on the limb you're going to go, the funnier you have to be. So you have to really stick the landing if you're going to start playing with some of these things. And that's one of the thrills of comedy, and one of the reasons I like Bill Burr is he likes to dig himself into a hole, almost bring the whole audience to the point where they're about to really start hollering and screaming and, getting on him. And then he brings them back and is funny enough and insightful enough and witty enough to kind of land the idea, kind of land the plane safely at the end of the joke.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think Bill Maher's that kind of guy. I think he's it could be, maybe that's the common theme that attracted me to talking about these two, is neither one of them I respect that much as comedians. Neither one of them, I think, are that interesting performers. I mean, Bill Maher is one of the cynical, I don't know. He's been all over the place in the last 20 years politically, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it just seems like he's jumping on whatever everybody agrees on at the moment, but he does it in such a way so he's wearing his, jumping on the bandwagon almost as like his, he's couching it as this rebellion against the world or whatever.
Right.
That I just find completely obnoxious and boring. Yeah, I guess that maybe that's what it is. It's like I didn't laugh enough at either one of these jokes for them to be worth what they're doing. There's no, because that's the thing with Bill Burr, is he'll talk about this word and racial stereotypes or racial issues, but he'll do it in a kind of, I'm exploring the world and figuring out how we can all live together and how we can all come together and make friends when there's all these weird things dividing us. And so he's kind of trying to come to some bigger truth, and Bill Maher's just doing some dumb punchline.
Yeah, well, and it had no context to what they were talking. It's not like they were talking about race.
Yeah.
Like, even honestly, like the word's just off limits. Like, dude, just don't say it.
Yeah.
It's not for you. The word's not for you. But like, if maybe they were talking about race or something, then maybe it would have been a joke that landed better and would have made more sense or something. But instead of saying like, I'm a pampered, TV star,
Right.
and I will never go work in the fields or whatever. He
Right.
drops the N word, and that word is very powerful, and like, it's like not the thing to say, and like he said it anyway.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because you were talking. We mentioned this earlier, and I'm just curious for your thoughts. So you talked about how Ben Sass didn't really say anything. He kind of laughed at his joke, and the whole audience laughed.
I kind of, I don't know anything about Ben Sass, but when I read that, like, he kind of laughed it off, I was like, I'm sure, like, the dude felt super awkward.
I think
it's almost like you're a guest in someone's house.
Exactly.
And they say something awful, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, like you don't know what to, so you're like, and then, like, you leave and you don't ever come back.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, I hear these people get outraged.
I don't know anything about him. I don't know what his political affiliations are or whatever. It's just, I felt kind of bad for him when I heard that, because I was like, oh,
Yeah. I believe he's a history professor, a Republican senator, history professor. I've listened to him. Some of his stuff is pretty interesting and pretty engaging when compared to other politicians that I almost never listen to. But some of his stuff I think is pretty, let's just say, interesting. However, laying this at his feet, like, realistically, like, let's say you're a star promoting a show, and you're promoting your thing, or you're a politician promoting your book, which is what I believe Ben Sass was doing.
Yeah.
And Bill Maher pops out with that joke. Like, what are you supposed to do? Stop the segment, wag your finger at Bill Maher, and make him apologize on his own show, which he would never do.
Right.
Like, what realistically is anybody in that situation? I think your metaphor.
I mean,
for that is
I think if you're a politician, you realize that politically this is a terrible thing that just happened, and you say, hey, like,
Maybe.
I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you dropping the N-bomb right there. But, and you could buy my book at Barnes and Noble or whatever. And
I'm out, and then take the mic off and leave. You know what?
I also understand, like, as someone who, has, like, pretty racist family members, like, when I'm in their house and they just say stuff, I'm like, I leave the room.
Exactly.
Or sometimes leave the party, things like that. But, like, I could totally see, like, being a guest on someone's show and you're not expecting that, because it's not like people are like, oh, Bill Maher's totally racist. Like, nobody would think that. I mean,
well,
do they? I don't know.
I don't know when he pops out with this.
Honestly, I'm like, I think Bill Maher is super sexist. I actually have no idea if Bill Maher is racist or not. But, like, you're certainly not. What I mean is, you're not prepared for that.
I agree.
You're not prepared to go on Bill Maher and he's going to drop the N-bomb.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And I could completely, and that's the weird thing about how incidents like these are typically deconstructed, is I could completely see Ben Sass hearing that. The audience is laughing. There's a little bit of a pause. Bill Maher's going on with his next thought. I could completely see Ben Sass in his head thinking, all right, I need to fire my advance man. Who do I know that can help me with the rest of this book tour? Because why am I here on this show? I could totally see, and then say to himself, you know what? I got to pay. The laughter's dying down. I got to pay back attention and then engage back. I can, I think it's a little much to kind of lay that.
I don't know what Bill Maher was thinking.
Exactly.
To use the whole, like, thing that's going around on social media where they, it's like Kathy Griffin, like, gets all this publicity holding up a severed head of Donald Trump, and Bill Maher's like, here, hold my beer. Like,
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe this is the overarching lesson of this segment, which is if you're going to do crazy in your face, politically explosive stuff, you better be funny.
Yeah.
You better land it.
That's exactly it.
You can do whatever you want. I guess that's where I'm coming from. I don't want to speak with you. Do whatever you want. Say whatever you want. But if you're going to do or say things that charged, you better be funny.
It better be funny, or you're going to pay the consequences. And now it's time to talk about what we're dorking out about this week. And it turns out that what we're dorking out about this week is ourselves.
That's right.
I'm gonna go first. We're all about dorking ourselves. I'm gonna go first and talk about my other podcast that I do with my husband called Old Movies, New Beer. And we have a brand new episode up for the first time in a year.
That's right. The first time since Dorking Out launched, they haven't done one episode.
Yes. But we finally did a new episode, and it's 3 movies. There are all-star Alec Guinness.
Oh, God. You know what's going to be great when they can do the de-aging and whatever, and like synthetic actors or whatever? There could be an Alec Baldwin, Alec Guinness movie together.
The Alex.
Oh! Okay, keep going. I love
the
that.
Smart Alex. So this one is all Alec Guinness, and it's the Lavender Hill Mob, the Lady Killers, and Kind Hearts and Coronets. And we're drinking a beer called Hen House Brewing's IPA. It's, I think, a really fun podcast. I'm really glad that we're back and we're planning to do it more often. And I wanted to give it a little plug.
I was afraid that I had actually killed your show because I believe
you were the last. Yeah, you came on, and then we didn't do another episode
for another year. We came on to talk about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the Disney's first animated feature, and it was so great. And then nothing.
Well, the episode was so good that we were like, well, we just can't top that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's what it was.
That's totally not what it was.
Well, what's funny is because I woke up, looked at my phone, I saw on a new episode of Old Movies, New Beer, and then I kind of scrolled through the episodes, and it was like, April March something, April something, May something, June. Okay, yeah, that's right. And then I realized it was June of this year and May of last year.
Yes. So we took a little sabbatical.
That's right, a little unannounced sabbatical.
Yes, but we're back, and we're hoping to at least be doing this monthly, so we're pretty excited. It's a super fun show. So if you like to talk about movies, specifically old movies and beer, not old beer, just good beer, then you should listen.
What is your next movie for the next episode?
We haven't announced that yet. We have a couple of ideas. We have been thinking about doing an all Star Trek one. With the first 6 with the original cast. Goodness, settle down.
No, I will not. That sounds very exciting. I would.
Yeah, so we might do that one. And was there? I don't remember what the other idea was, but we do have a couple of other ideas.
Cool.
You'll just have to trust me.
Yes. No. So
what have you been up to?
Let me tell you. I don't know if you've known. I don't like to mention it a lot, but I own a video production company. I work in video for my day job, and I was lucky enough to go to the 2017 San Francisco Regional Emmys last night at the Jazz Center in San Francisco. You may have seen my incessant tweeting and Facebooking as myself and my younger son Dell went. Because I was lucky enough to get nominated for another drunk driving video, another drunk driving video, educational video.
It's all about how to get away with drunk driving.
It's all about it. Well, the category is informational, instructional program or special, and then it's kind of like I always have to throw in it's how not to do it, because you could easily hear an instructional video on how to become a drunk driver. Interesting. Targeted at high school kids, you say. Oh, that's a different way.
You're teaching them skills that they will use in their adult life.
That's right. Once you get your first tax bill, kids, this information is going to kick right in, and you're going to need it. So anyway, so we went last night. We were lucky enough to win. So this is my 3rd Emmy. Not that I'm counting. 6th nomination.
Not that you're counting.
Not that I'm counting. No, so it was. This
So you're
is,
batting 500.
yeah, that's right. I am. I thought about that. I'm batting 500. And no, it was just a whole lot of fun. All the cliches were true about it's an honor to be nominated and it's fun and whatever. But I got to tell you, the last day, this is a problem, and this is kind of why I want to talk about this a little bit. That no one ever talks about, and it's not really a problem. It's just it's a weird situation in life, in that when you get nominated, it's great. It's a huge honor. It's very fun. But then there's this date on the calendar that it's like there's an insistent clock ticking down until you find out what happens if you win or lose. And you're the biggest schmuck in the world if you complain about it or talk about it. It just, you sound so entitled and so douchebaggy and so whatever. But it really is this irritating. And all day yesterday, it's just this clock. Oh, we're going to find out tonight. We're going to find out tonight. And it's just, so having it over, win or lose, I've done both. I've been lucky enough to win some and, also lost some. And just having it over is great. But that, the last 2 hours of sitting in the audience, basically trying to distract myself talking to my son while it counts down to the moment is just, it's quite unpleasant in a weird way.
How many awards do you sit through before they get to yours?
Well, that's the thing is the joke.
And do you are you sitting at a table with like food? Is it like the Golden Globes or is it?
That's the thing is it used to be like the Golden Globes where you would have dinner, you would be able to have drinks right there, and then they would announce and you'd walk up and walk back to your table. But what ended up happening is people got really drunk.
Yeah.
And the winners near the end of the night would be kind of spectacular. You know what it is? Oh, I think we talked about this. Ron Burgundy's Emmy award speech in Anchorman is surprisingly accurate.
He probably did some research. He probably went to some local Emmys and.
It's 100% accurate. So anyway, it used to be kind of like that. So what they did this year is that nobody's eating. If you only one person in a party is allowed to talk about it. So they tear through, like, there's a huge amount of categories in this. That's the other kind of ridiculous little secret about the local Emmys is there's a million categories. So if you work in professional television production, there's a very good chance you could win an Emmy. You need to be diligent about doing good work and then just submit. And if you do that over 10 years and haven't won an Emmy, something's wrong because it's surprisingly easy. Highlighted by the fact that I now have 3. So it's, if I can do it more than once.
Well, I look forward to winning my Emmy.
You should. Actually, you know what's interesting is, here's the other little secret, is you can now win an Emmy for a video that you put on the web. Or, like, there were people from the Chronicle winning Emmys last night, from the Sacramento Bee. There was, from just, like, no name, no nothing website, joeblow.com, winning, or at least nominated. I don't think that guy won. But yeah, no, you could really do it. So, anyway.
All right, so I'll be there next year then.
So you'll be there next year. I was very happy. People might have seen this. Because I love to be a blowhard about this. I love to play a blowhard on a podcast.
Yeah, he's just playing, you guys.
That's right. But my son, Delano Smith, the Batman correspondent for Dorking Out, was very quick to cut me down. I was joking with one of the other winners last night about, I was spouting off in a blowhardy, as a 3-time Emmy Award winner. And before I even finished that sentence, Del leans in from behind and says, regional. And then he just leans back out, pops Daddy's balloon, shows him up to be what a blowhard, blundering fool he is. You've raised a good kid there.
I
did, because the thing I was happy, I think that was my favorite part of the night. It was not that he had the nerve to kind of poke Daddy in his moment of triumph, but the quickness, his comic timing was
so proud of his
assassin-like.
comic timing.
Oh my God, it was perfect. It was just so quick and brutal. It was like one of those things where the ninja kind of swipes a samurai sword across your neck, and he does it so quick that you don't realize you're decapitated, and the blood is not even flowing out. You're dead, but you don't even know it, because it was so fast and smooth and slick. It was like that. It was that. His comic
That's gross.
chops were. It is gross. It's a blood-soaked episode. Ever since Kathy Griffin, it's all been downhill. So, but anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I promise next week, probably what I'm dorking out about will not involve me and my low-rent triumphs.
Maybe.
Anyway, is there anything else that you would like to talk about, Sonia Mansfield?
No, I'll just say goodbye.
Bye!
The Dorking Out Show is on Twitter at Dorking Out Show, where you can find Chris at Jet Juergens and Sonia at The Sonia Show. You can read about Sonia's random adventures at thesoniashow.com and track the slow and creeping progress of Chris's novel and his other hijinks at jetjuergens.com. You can find out more about The Dorking Out Show at dorkingoutshow.com. While you're over there, you can support us by giving us a review on iTunes. We have a handy-dandy iTunes link to whisk you right back to 2007, where you can leave your review and 5-star rating in iTunes. We'd do it for your podcast. Want to dork out even more? Well, you can sign up for our newsletter, where you'll get all the headlines we use as fuel for the show. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening.